quick here. And we'll put our apostrophe up here, the A-I-N apostrophe T, right? So the first thing I want to do is I want to count up everything. So real quickly, I go my borders, each get an inch. Space between words, get an inch. Capital, 2. T is a half, A is an inch, I is a half inch. We're going to give that a 1/4 inch, but we're going to come back and pick that up when we do our spacing between letters. The T is a half, O, B, E, R, and then we're to our border. Okay? So now we come back and do those spaces between the letters. So every time I get 4 of them, it's going to equal an inch. Rather than add up a bunch of 1/4, I'm just going to count. So 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. That's 1 inch. So I'm going to put it down here on my list of stuff to count up. And then I'm going to count an inch, or a 1/4 inch for that apostrophe, and then a 1/4 inch space between that and the T. So that's 2 more. So that's 2/4 I added, 3/4, and another inch. And then I have 1/4 right there. So now I've counted my borders. I've got my space between words. I've got my letter spacing, my punctuation, and my spacing between the letters inside of the words. All of that added together, I'm going to add my whole numbers first. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and a half, 15 and 3/4. So 15 and 3/4 is what I would cut my paper to for the length of this line that I just counted. That's my paper size. Okay, so now that I've got my paper size, let's draw the paper up here. Okay, this is going to be obviously a 2-liner. It ain't over probably till it's over. So we're going to have an inch border on both sides that we counted. Those were right here. An inch top, and then a 1.5 inch bottom. And that 1.5 inch, that extra ½ inch, is to absorb those descending letters like G's and Y's. When you measure for your text lines, I want you to measure down from your border 3 inches and draw a line, and then measure up from your bottom border 3 inches and draw a line. The reason I want you to do that is because the text lines have to be the same. If there's going to be a mess up, if you're going to make a little bit of an error on your measuring, we want that space in between the lines to absorb the mistake. It should be 2 inches, but if it's 1 7/8 or 2 1/8 or whatever, this won't matter. If it's in the text lines, then your letters will be different sizes, and that would matter. So measure down from the border and up from the border. That guarantees that. All right, so now we've got our lines on there. We can start measuring that top line. So we've got our border, that's this inch. Then we have a 2 inch width, so I'm going to draw a real light pencil line here at the 2 inch mark, and that will represent where that I goes. Then I have a 1/4 inch space right here. Now at this point, I see a lot of people continuing to draw their lines all the way from the top to the bottom of that text line. That's fine, it doesn't matter, but you're doing more work and creating more work than you have to. You're not going to have probably any more capitals in that whole line. So there's no reason to continue to draw all the way through that space. You're going to have to erase it. So I would measure up 1 1/4 inches and draw a line all the way down. And that line would represent this line right here. It's the top of all of your lowercase letters. So now when you measure, you don't need to go all the way to the top. You just go to that 1 1/4 line, and you're creating a box for your T, your A, your I, your N, and all your lowercase letters. So that T, it's a ½ inch. So I measure over from that last line a ½ inch and draw up to that 1 1/4 inch line. Then I have an inch space. So I measure over an inch, draw a line. My A is an inch, over an inch, draw a line. 1/4 inch space, I is a half, 1/4 inch space, in is an inch, 1/4 inch space, have a 1/4 inch for that apostrophe, and then a 1/4 inch after it for the space, and then a 1/2 for the T. So those spaces right there look like this. T, space, A, I, N, apostrophe, and your T. You guys see how that works? We'll come back and worry about the height of them in a minute, but we're just measuring how we get across the line. So now I have an inch space, an inch for the O, 1/4 inch space, inch for the V, 1/4 inch space, inch for the E, 1/4 inch space, inch for the R. So now we have the word over for those spaces. Now we have two ascendings, two letters that go up. We got an I and a T. They're 2 inches tall. So I'm going to come over here and measure up 2 inches from that bottom of the text line and draw a line above the I and the T, and then I can extend those boxes down to those existing lines. So now I know where those ascending letters will fill in. Is the I dot going to be as tall as the top of the T? When you write words, do you typically put that dot way up there? It's typically up a little bit, but it's not all the way to the top. So you can make that judgment call. That dot's probably going to be there, not way up top. I wouldn't necessarily do that. So put it in that upper area where you know it belongs. If you were going to have a J or a G or a Y, and this was the box, you might measure down a 1/2 inch and draw that line. And that would be the space right in there, that extra 1/2 inch that we added here. Here it is right here, absorbing the tail of the Y, the G, the J, or whatever. Okay? If we did everything right, that last letter will end up on this line right here, and then you'll have your border. If you measured correctly, and you were picky about looking at the ruler and making those marks very clean. If you're a little sloppy with your measuring, over and over and over, that adds up, and you could be into your border a little bit or very short of your border, but it'll show up if you do it over and over the same way. Okay? Yes? Okay, I'll come look at it. Any other questions about what you saw? Okay. If you have any questions, I'll come look.